there's this little thing in your body that just says, you know what, you're going to have endometriosis, unfortunately. And so then once that cascade goes, then it's just a domino effect leading to endometriosis. And so I'm trying to figure out the steps with that domino effect that lead to endometriosis, because if you can find that one domino and stop it from falling, you might be able to stop the rest and be able to stop endometriosis from happening.
Endometriosis isn't just a bad period. It's a whole body disease that impacts at least 1 in 10 females at birth. And yet, most go years, sometimes over a decade, without a diagnosis. It's misunderstood, it's under-researched, and it's often dismissed as, just a reproductive issue. This podcast is a space for the real talk. The stuff we whisper about and cry about and scream about, and the small wins that we celebrate along the way. We are here to connect, to get honest, and to share what we're learning as we navigate life with endo together. Hi, I am so excited to have Brittany-Lee today with us. She is a student at University of New England. She is a patient herself, and she's researching endometriosis now. And she's here to tell us all about this. So I'm so excited to have you, Brittany. Tell us about your journey, as little or as much as you want to share. I'm just dying to hear everything.
Well, thanks for having me, first off. I've been really excited about talking about research and then just talking about this entire journey itself. So I would say it started out, I was really young. I really don't remember too much. I was thankfully one of the very few that got diagnosed early. So I started experiencing symptoms sometime in middle school and high school. I just remember being in a lot of pain. And it was my dad, actually, who recently passed away, who was like, this is not normal pain at all. And he kept pushing me to go to the doctor. And I don't know how this man knew, but he must have known it was something to do with like my reproductive system, because he was like, go to, what are those female doctors called? And I was like, OB-GYNs. So that was my first experience really going to an OB-GYN, was thankfully because of my dad. And I had surgery at 17 years old after missing a lot of school,
Wow.
having a lot of pain. I had my first surgery at 17, and they told my dad it was endometriosis, and I had never heard of the word endometriosis before. And so I remember for years after, I was like, it's endo something, until it finally started sticking every time I went to the doctor's office. He had told my dad after my first surgery that I had about 3 years if I wanted to have kids. So I know as a 17-year-old that was horrifying.
Wow.
And kids weren't really part of my plan at the time, so it wasn't a big concern.
17.
Yeah, you know? And so, yeah, I started experiencing pain again years after that. And my dad once again pushed me to go back because it reminded him a lot of the pain that I experienced in high school. So in 2022, I had surgery again, and it had traveled this time. So they removed some endometriosis off my bowels, and they had to get rid of some of my bowels because of just how bad the endometriosis was on them. They also found out my ureters, and it was just all over my reproductive organs. So a year after that, I had to get surgery once again because the pain was back. And
Wow.
I just could not get any relief. Whenever they were able to do the surgery again, 2023, they said I almost lost my kidneys because of how like much inflammation was on my ureters. Yeah. So I think that really goes to show, like, I think a lot of people know about endometriosis, but I didn't personally know. I knew it could travel, but you really don't understand the impact until it happens to you.
Crazy. Wow. I'm so sorry. That's so 3 surgeries. So how do you handle this? And you're in med school now.
Yeah. I kind of handle it in different ways, I would say. I think one of the things is more my mindset. This is the only career I want. I want to be a doctor. I've wanted it since the moment I decided it, which I couldn't even tell you when that was. But it's my goal. And then also, I think channeling my endometriosis to knowing that at some point I could hopefully make an impact. Because not everyone is able to go to medical school and be able to try to make an impact, because the pain really is debilitating. And stage 1 looks different than stage 4, also like the pain that's felt in stage 1 can be worse than stage 4.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just take it as I might be one of the few that could be able to channel this into a medical career and also be able to get some sort of answers or relief to other endometriosis patients. And also, I'm passionate about it too. I want answers. I want a reason why. I want to know how to get rid of the pain, so it's like an internal passion as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Does anybody in your class has any such personal relation to the field?
Like in my class,
In school, in med school?
Do you mean do we have like professors that are endometriosis specialists or?
Oh, that is amazing. I don't think I even hoped for that because it's so rare. But I think I'm asking more like, it sounds to me that you're doing something noble and absolutely almost crazy. And I hope you're not alone in that.
Oh, I know that there are definitely other people that I go to school with that also have endometriosis. It is very common, unfortunately. But also, I do have a great support system with friends. And I think whenever you're in medicine, you want to know more. So I think naturally my friends are like, how does this impact you? How do you feel it every day? What would be your advice to us in the future? So I have a lot of optimism for our next generation of doctors, and maybe I'm biased since I'm part of that generation, but
No, that sounds amazing. It's actually it's really good to hear. I'm almost surprised because that's not my experience, but I don't see doctors who are, I don't know what it is, Gen Z now.
I think it's a mixture of a bunch of different ones, but yeah, no, I definitely haven't always had the same experience with doctors that I've been to. I've gotten to see some that I've personally felt like they thought I was drug seeking or, felt like maybe I was being dramatic. And whether that's true or not, don't know. That's just how they made me feel. So that's why I say, I know it doesn't help with the doctors that are the negative experiences that some people have had, but I really do have a lot of hope for the generation that's coming up.
That's really amazing to hear. I wonder if your experience as a patient changed how you look at the professors, textbooks, what you study, how you study.
Yeah. So I will say our professors, we've gotten so many lectures on endometriosis. It's actually been really cool.
Really?
I did not expect that. Yeah. We had I would say at least 5 or 6 different lectures. It was almost part of an entire block. So we're separated into blocks. These are about 6 to 8 weeks. We get lots of different lectures during them, but during the reproductive health, we got a lot of lectures on endometriosis. And they're very receptive as well. I know one of the professors had on his slides that ablation, which is where you burn off the lesions, was the standard of care for trying to get rid of it, which isn't the case anymore. Now we use something called excision where we cut it off. And a few other students caught this, went up to him. We were like, hey, by the way, we actually think it's excision. He was like, oh, just send me proof, PubMed articles, things like that, and I'll change it. And the moment that we sent him the information, it was immediately changed. And he also put it in his lecture as well. And he made the correction to all the students, hey, I was just made aware of this, by the way, wanted everyone to know. So it's been on our exams as well.
First of all, thank you for doing this, because now generations after you are going to learn the right things. Second, I'm really touched. This is a beautiful story. I'm so happy you were received with open arms and that your feedback was implemented so fast. This is amazing.
Yeah. Like I said, I can't speak for other schools because I haven't been there. But I can't speak for mine, and I would say mine has been very like open about talking about endometriosis, and we even had an endometriosis case. We have something called like case-based learning, which is where we get a case about a hypothetical patient that's coming in for specific complaints, and we kind of diagnose them. We talk about why things like this happen, or why they're presenting the way that they present, like why they're experiencing pain, and then we'll talk about like medications that are like that we can currently use to help, which they also called attention to that, like unfortunately there's not really many medications for endometriosis. The only things that we can really that are written down that we can do as doctors is birth control, which is sad, and so they call attention to that, but they like let us know these things, and they also keep us up to date on things with endometriosis throughout each block. So if things change, they let us know that things have changed, and they'll let us know what's changed.
Wow, that is amazing. I'm so happy to hear this. This is really refreshing. And I'm happy because, I asked some doctors who went to school 10, 15 years ago, and like all they studied about endometriosis was like one sentence and like one paragraph in the book, and that's it. And then some of them went and did the extra education on themselves on their own, and some of them didn't naturally. So this is really amazing. I'm so happy to hear that it wouldn't be the case anymore, that someone just never heard of it before. So this sounds like a pretty positive thing, but I wonder if, what would you wish that every med student, not in your school, or every future doctor understood about endometriosis on the patient side?
It hurts. It really hurts. The pain that we feel, I don't think is describable. And I think especially that, like, we get turned away. And then we get told, oh, it's just a bad period. Or I know I had someone one time that was like, oh, well, I have really bad back pain, so I know how you feel. And I was like, I don't think that's the same. I'm sorry. Like, like they really try to understand. But you can't. And I think accepting that you're not going to understand someone's pain, but believing them. No one's going to come to you just saying that they hurt, just to say that they hurt. No one wants to be hurting like that. They're going to come to you to get help. So I would say listen to them, try to help them. I get, maybe you can't, depending on the hospital, some hospitals can't give like opioids or other pain medications, things like that. Or maybe medications the patient's on, like there's just not a very good way of helping them with their pain. But sometimes even just them sitting there and saying, I hear you and I know that you're in pain. I'm so sorry. And I'm trying to do what I can. But explain to me why you can't give me this medicine. Is it the hospital policy? Is it, because of something else? Like sit there and explain it to me. Tell me why. But then also acknowledge that that I'm in pain and you're advocating for me and you're trying to help me with my pain.
Ooh, yeah. This one hits deep because I had a doctor who was trying to compare her back pain, and she was like, I also have back pain and I take a Tylenol and I come into work every day. Like, why can't you do the same? And I was short of chopping her head off, but yeah. But and to your other part of it, I also remember coming into my pelvic pain specialist one day, which, as I always said, is so funny because she never sees me at my worst. She always sees me, happens to be the once a year that I go. It's usually on a good day. And then one time it fell on a really, really bad day when I walked in at like a 9 pain and started sobbing because I was just like seeing so much pain. And she and her nurse were there, and they were like, I'm so sorry. I don't know how you guys manage this. Like, if I were you, I would never leave the house. I'm so proud of you that you came in. And that was everything I needed in that moment. And then she helped me with everything I needed as well. But like, it was so amazing to just feel heard because it's so rare, unfortunately. And it didn't help my pain right away, but I knew that she's there to help me. Where do you feel like the biggest gap is right now in the medical world where things still fall behind?
I would say I see a lot of research that's been trying to find other ways of diagnosing endometriosis outside of surgery, which is great. And I think we can all say that would be great, but at the end of the day, like for right now, if you do have endometriosis, you still have to have the surgery. And so one gap that I see is, how do we manage our pain in the meantime? Like, yeah, we can get the diagnosis and get told that we have endometriosis, but it almost feels like it's a life sentence. Like, there's nothing we can really do for it. Get on birth control. Stop your periods. And I was on birth control. My endometriosis still came back. And I hear that from so many other people. So we're not fully stopping it. We're not preventing it. We're just putting a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
For later. And so
because we don't know how to prevent it, I think.
Right, yeah. And that is kind of the hard part, figuring out how do we even stop the pain. And so that's one big gap that I see in research. I know that's why I'm doing some research. I'm trying to look at seeing if there's other things that might help with the pain in the meantime. So like, I go to a osteopathic school. So this is, I'm classified as a DO, so Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine. Still pretty well, I still take the same test as my MD counterparts. I can still pick whatever specialty I want to pick. There's no really gap between MD and DO. The one thing that DOs do have is something called osteopathic manipulative techniques. And so this is where you can I think of it as like massage, like whenever you go to get a massage, they're digging into your muscles and you can like feel it in your bones and it, makes you feel better. Like you get up from getting this massage and you're like, wow, I feel like I just see the world clearer. Yeah. I can take on all the stress in the world, like there's more room for stress in my body now. And that's kind of how I see OMM or OMT. It's, you look at the ways that your muscle can move, because your muscle's connected to your bones. And if you think about it, like you wake up and you're sore, you almost have a bad day already.
Right.
Because your mentality, you're like, oh, I'm already hurting. And like, oh, now like I'm late for work because I'm hurting. It's like everything's intertwined. So we look at like the whole human, not just, oh, this is hurting them. We look at, okay, well, example, like with endometriosis, we hurt, but also we hurt mentally too, because no one believes us or everyone tries to compare it, and so with being a doctor of osteopathic medicine, you look at the whole person instead of just looking at that one specific problem, and then you try to figure out how you can treat everything with that person, not just that one problem. So I'm looking into different techniques like that. Anyone who's ever like tried OMM, seeing if it has even improved their pain, maybe it hasn't, but maybe it has. And then looking at other things like diet and stuff, you hear people talking about like, oh, I went on this diet, anti-inflammatory, and it made me feel so much better, and you're like, wow, I want to know about this. What diet? So, yeah, we're looking into things like that. And then I'm also doing research where I'm trying to look at like different, molecular pathways that could potentially have something to do with endometriosis. So hopefully that'll help us get a little bit of answers. But, that's kind of where we're lagging right now in research, is what can we actually do to stop the pain? And then what can we do to just stop it in general?
Yeah. So this molecular something that you said, can you explain to someone who doesn't understand anything about that?
Yeah. So
what does it help?
To try not to get nitty gritty with it too. So let's see here. How can I explain it? Think of like genetics. I'm not really saying it has to do with genetics. I feel like there could be something to do there, but think of it like genetics. Like you inherit this gene which causes, let's say, migraines even, So you inherit this gene, your mom has migraines, now you have migraines, and it's probably because you inherited it. I'm thinking that there's something similar with that to do with endometriosis. So what happens is like once you've inherited that, there might be like a chemical of sorts that gets like released a lot and causes the pain. Or there might be a chemical that is released whenever you're younger, that's as soon as you start your period for the first time, then there you go. Now it's in full motion and now it's spreading to other areas. So I just think it's hard to explain like molecular mechanisms and stuff without like really getting nitty gritty, but I try to just see it as there's this little thing in your body that just says, you know what, you're going to have endometriosis, unfortunately. And so then once that cascade goes, then it's just a domino effect leading to endometriosis. And so I'm trying to figure out the steps with that domino effect that lead to endometriosis, because if you can find that one domino and stop it from falling, you might be able to stop the rest and be able to stop endometriosis from happening.
Oh my God, I love that. That sounds absolutely amazing. Wow. Thank you for doing this. I hope you find that domino for all of us. Yeah. In the meantime, I know you mentioned diet. I am definitely one person who has very much helped diet. I was suffering a lot. And ever since I started going gluten-free, dairy-free, no red meat, no deep fried stuff, very little soy, but I can't tolerate that. And like, such a difference. For me personally, also, if I am able to not touch high sugars and like unnatural sugars, so much better. I can feel the inflammation just rising up as soon as I do that. But I live in the United States, and finding stuff that's made without sugar is very hard in here.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, but it would be very, very interesting to see if your research identifies one specific element out of this like very big like don't eat anything besides very few little things, which is it's very hard with the anti-inflammatory diet. You really are eliminating a lot, but it really, in my experience, any patient who may be listening and considering, I highly recommend it. I also highly recommend doing an elimination diet, which is very, very hard to do. I was lucky to do it in COVID, so I was stuck home. You don't eat outside anyways, it was kind of easier. So every week I tried something, and now I know exactly how things affect me, and sometimes I'm like, okay, today I'm going to take a chance on that ice cream. It's going to hurt a little bit, but I know it's not going to drown me for 10 days. But I would never touch alcohol, because that is terrible for me. I just learned that. So yeah, I highly recommend. This is a very, very powerful thing that I learned from myself.
That's really interesting. Just hearing like your diet plan and everything, I'm like, it's interesting. I'm gonna have to give it a try.
Yeah, it's tough while you're doing other things unless you're like really good with meal planning and like sticking to it. But yeah, I was lucky to be stuck home for 12, 15 weeks where we couldn't leave the house. So it was a good time to try it. But I wanted to talk more about your research. So how did you get funding for this? I know it's so hard to get funding. Sometimes it's embarrassing to look at like what does get funding versus women's health, and it's like, don't you think like this? Maybe a little bit more?
Yeah. So one of the studies that I'm doing is more of a kind of study that you don't necessarily need funding for. So what we do is we look at everything that's already been published, people who have gotten funding, and we try to make an analysis based on all these different published papers. And we say like they're all saying the same thing, or they're all saying something a little different, or just try to come up with some sort of conclusion on anywhere from like 10 to 30 different papers. And then it's just calling to attention like, hey, we do need more research in this. I did apply for a grant. I'm waiting to hear back from the World Endometriosis Society. Fingers crossed, but we will see. And a lot of the things that we do, at least in medical school anyway, aren't really costly things. The costly part is whenever you try to go get it published. So that will be a cost that later on I will have to encounter. Until then, most of like the research that I'm doing currently doesn't necessarily require funding, but it would be nice at least to just get the information out there, and also be able to like publish it. So hopefully I'll get the World Endometriosis Society grant. We will see. But yeah, that's kind of the con with anything, is that there's not really much money that is going to like looking into people with uterus's health. Like they don't, I think I've said this before, there's more research that's done on male pattern baldness than endometriosis. So
That is so crazy. That is just a crazy number. It's just, yeah. Is it just because we're like, women, who cares? I wonder if there's anything beyond that.
There's always conclusions that I make. So, before 1993, we didn't really have anyone with a uterus that was participating in research. It was mostly just like men. Yeah. So you can look this up on the AAMC website, and they'll tell you like no one with a uterus really was participating in research before 1993. If so,
Why?
very few people. Yeah, I think I wish I had an answer. I'm not totally sure. It could be that, I mean, it could be that, they thought for whatever reason our hormones were going to mislead them in
Skew
some
the
way.
data.
I can't tell you. That's the only thing I can think. That's the only nice thing I can think. Don't know. But I mean, even at that too, like now we're getting more awareness for endometriosis. I think after Bindi Irwin kind of spoke out about her story, and then her brother spoke at one of the conferences, I feel like more people have started looking into endometriosis. Like, what is endometriosis? Do I have endometriosis? And I feel like the word endometriosis and the disease is getting put out there a bit more. So I'm hoping that that helps. But I mean, a lot of it too is kind of just awareness. And if you think about it, like, I mean, I know a few people that have, I guess, what they call male pattern baldness, at a young age. And they're like, oh man, like, I would love to, have some hair. And so the pharmaceutical companies take advantage of that. And they're like, wow, everyone knows someone who's bald and would love to have hair, so they take advantage of that. So really the biggest thing is just getting endometriosis out there more, talking about it more, getting more representation. And then more people sharing their stories and making it normal and getting rid of that like stigma where we can't talk about reproductive health because it's just that old stigma that we just need to wipe clean.
Oh, I love that. Because it's also so actionable. I feel like I can go and do something to help. That's great. I love that. So me and a bunch of other listeners, we're going to do that and talk more about endometriosis and try to raise awareness. But also, how can we help your research?
So hopefully soon I should be posting like a survey on endometriosis support group, and also since I'm around the Boston area, I'll also be posting to like the greater Boston endometriosis support group. So I definitely keep an eye out for that. And whenever it's posted, if you meet the criteria and you're willing, then I definitely recommend at least just taking a look at the survey, deciding if you would like to, do it or not. It helps out because then it looks at different things that we've tried or that other people have tried and seeing like what has historically helped for people, what really hasn't helped very well, just so then we can figure out what to look into more for future routes of pain relief for us. And then other than that, I mean, talk about it more, the more we talk about endometriosis and get rid of that stigma, the better. And sharing people's story, connecting with others, letting others know that they're not alone. I really like the endometriosis support groups, all of them, simply just because there's someone on there, no matter what, that's been through the same things that you have. I know it is easy to feel alone, especially whenever you go to the hospital or when you're around friends. But being a part of a group like the support groups are really helpful because you're like, oh no, I'm not alone. And like, I can get through this with other people supporting me, and there's other people that believe in me. I know that was the first place that I went to actually when I got accepted into medical school. And I had an overwhelming amount of people comment with wonderful support and words of optimism that it was just great. And so, talking about like, how do I get through the days like that? It's support groups too. So
amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. That's really important. I think for me also support groups were first of all where I learned everything that helps me every day and also like where I finally found people who understand what I'm talking about and didn't suggest that maybe I'm exaggerating and maybe I'm talking too much or just suck it up.
it's fine. I mean, I'd rather talk too much about endometriosis, or I'd rather talk too much about it than not talk at all. So
Yeah. It also sounds like you really had a lot of backup from your father. It sounds like, he was there for you when you just started and on your first surgery, on your second surgery, and then after, really a strong supporter at home, which is absolutely amazing. Do you have any words of wisdom or like tips for parents who might have a hard time accepting that their child is actually suffering that much?
we'll say, as the person who was the child, I am eternally grateful to my dad for advocating for me. I will always get to hold on to that. And like I said, he just recently passed, and that's like the big thing for me is he believed me when even the school nurses didn't believe me. So,
Wow.
I mean, your child, yeah, maybe they don't want to go to school, but the odds that they're lying about their pain, I'd look into it. And I think as someone who's been that child, who my dad could have very well been like, oh, like the school nurse even says that you're trying to skip out of school. You know, he could
Yeah.
have very well just been like, no, never mind. And then it could have gotten worse. And so I hope that, like, hearing my story too, like, unfortunately mine still did spread, you know, and it still can happen. But the earlier the diagnosis, I think the least likely it is to happen, and it still could. But having that person that believed me meant the world. And I think everyone who has endometriosis can also vouch that having just someone that believes you and doesn't try to compare their pain or, you know, try to tell you, oh, just push through it. You know, like, we don't want to hear that. Just be there. This is your kid. Like, be there. Go try to advocate for them. I know that was one thing that he did, was imagine having a male in the room with you, your dad of all people, an OB-GYN office, and going like, I really think something is wrong with my child.
Wow.
I don't think, had he not done that and really pushed for answers, that I would have gotten the answers as soon as I did. So, I mean, as a kid, you can't really do your advocating. You need your parents to. So I say really advocate for them, listen to them, be there for them, acknowledge their pain. They'll hold on to that for life like I did with my dad.
I love that. And I hope more fathers of endometriosis patients will hear that and take that with them. I'm on the other side where I didn't get any support at all. And whenever I said, hey, something might be wrong, I got a lot of proof of why everything is perfectly right. So I think my tip for patients that don't get that kind of support is to reach out to a support group and learn from others how you advocate for yourself. It's the hardest thing that you're going to have to do, but you kind of have to do it. Any other tips that you could think to share with patients who don't get that kind of support?
Yeah, I know for me, even the times I would go to the doctor without my dad, as an adult, I actually questioned myself, like, am I actually in pain? And even though knowing I was, it'd just be like the moment where it just eased up just enough to where you could walk, you know, and you're like, am I really in pain? Believe yourself, believe your body. And I know it can be hard to advocate for yourself, because I'm one of those. I still struggle with it. Even being where I am now, I still struggle with it. I say if you can even have a friend to support you there, you know, bring a friend with you, bring someone who you know is going to fight for you, you know, while you're tired. If you don't have that, you know, this is also a great opportunity to be able to find that in yourself. I'm doing a lot of finding myself in a lot of different areas, and I think you'll find that no one else is a better advocate than yourself.
Ooh, that's a very strong sentence. I like that. I think it's sometimes very hard to get to that point, but I absolutely agree.
I'm still working on it myself, but you know, it's the times that I have gotten to experience it, I found that it's always been true. So
Yeah, we're all work in progress, and we do better from appointment to appointment and from year to year. That's what we're here to do. Any final words?
No. I say just thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I hope that listeners have been able to learn something or even take something with them, whether that be just like how to get through today, how to get through tomorrow. I wish I had, you know, like step by step, this is how you do it, this is how I got to medical school, but there really is no step by step. It's kind of just also giving yourself grace. And so if that's what a listener needs today, is some grace, then give yourself some grace. You know, like I still have to give myself grace. Everyone does. So take that time if you need it, reset, you know, and then plan out tomorrow to be a different kind of day. But you can't predict when your pain's going to happen, and you just got to take it. And hopefully one day we'll have answers. But until then, you know, we're all in this together. So
Thank you. And thank you so much for coming here and sharing your research and your passion and this beautiful story and inspiration of your father. I'm so sorry for your loss, and thank you for sharing this. Hopefully it will inspire many more to support their daughters and patients around them.
yeah, that's all I could hope for. So